Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. We are from Group 6A and we would like to present to you a case about a 52-year-old woman developed diabetic ketoacidosis secondary to community-acquired pneumonia. The patient is 52 years old, female Malay, and her BMI is 30.49 kg per meter square, which is considered as obese, and her BSA is 1.95 meter square. The patient came in on 12th of April with complaint of worsening shortness of breath and epigastric pain. She previously experienced cough for 1 week with yellowish sputum and no blood, fever for 3 days, on and off SOB for 1 week, lethargic, vomiting 2 to 3 times a day for 3 days, high white cell count and low dextrose level. Her past medical history, she has diabetic mellitus, which she's on OHA and insulatard but not compliant towards the medication. She has hypertension, dyslipidemia and hyperthyroidism with thyroid goiter. Her family history that her father only had type 2 diabetic mellitus. Here are the current medication list that was given to the patient in the ward.
The main diagnosis of this patient is diabetic ketoacidosis. The signs and symptoms that support the diagnosis include patient's hyperglycemia condition with blood glucose more than 11 mmol per liter, ketone more than 3 mmol per liter, pH less than 7.3, bicarbonate less than 50 mmol per liter, dehydration associated with tachycardia, epigastric pain and vomiting. The risk factors include infection and non-compliance with insulin therapy. For the treatment of DKA, according to CPG, firstly, patient should be commenced with 1000 ml of 0.9% saline drip for the first 16 minutes, but the treatment given here was appropriate. Next is potassium replacement. It should be given when potassium level falls below 5.5 mmol per liter and behold if there is no urine output. In this case, calcium measure was only given on 13 to 16 April. The potassium replacement should be continued until return to normal range. Thirdly, a fixed rate IV insulin infusion should be started with infusion rate of 0.1 unit per kg per hour. Delay insulin infusion if the initial potential falls below 3.5 mmol per liter. Once dextrose level below 40 mmol per liter, add or switch to 5% dextrose and reduce infusion rate by 50%. In this case, patient was given IV atropine with lower infusion rate than suggested. The management is acceptable as the dextrose level decreased significantly. However, the therapy was not adjusted when patient dextrose falls below 14 mmol per liter. Lastly, phosphate replacement should be given as well if phosphate level falls below 0.32 mmol per liter.
Besides DKA, pneumonia is another main diagnosis of this patient. During the admission, patient shows symptoms of fever with temperature of 38.4 degrees Celsius, cough with yellowish sputum, shortness of breath, lethargy, high white blood cell count of 22.1 times 10 to the power of 9 cells per liter, high CRP level of 32.26 mg per deciliter, and also right lower lobe consolidation revealed in the chest X-ray. In terms of goal of therapy, we want to eradicate the causative organisms, resolve the signs and symptoms of pneumonia, prevent pneumonia recurrence, as well as minimize the hospitalization. According to the National Antibiotic Guideline 2019, IV augmentin 1.2 gram Q8 for 5 to 7 days, plus IV or oral azithromycin 500 mg Q24 for 3 to 5 days is the first-line treatment for CAP in patient. However, alternative treatment of IV ceftriaxone 2 gram plus azithromycin 500 mg OD was given to the patient without any clear reason. As the patient's pneumonia still not resolved for more than 5 days and the CNS results show the presence of HAP causative organisms, thus patient was given appropriate HAP treatment as recommended by the guideline, which is IV tazocin 4.5 gram Q6 to 8 hours for 7 days or IV cefepime 2 grams Q8 for 7 days. For fever management, PCM should be continued until the temperature had returned to the normal range and fever has resolved in this patient.
The first problem is the inappropriate antibiotic initiation for community-acquired pneumonia. The patient was given alternative treatment which are ceftriaxone and azithromycin instead of the preferred treatment which are augmentin and azithromycin. Augmentin can help prevent unnecessary exposure to the risk of cephalosporin resistance. Secondly is the DVT prophylaxis in management for DKA. According to Prevention and Treatment of Venous Thromboembolism Guideline, DVT prophylaxis only is given when the Padua prediction score PPS is more than 4. For this case, the patient only score for obesity and acute infection. Therefore, no prophylaxis is recommended. Next is the inadequate management for anemia. The hemoglobin and red blood cell level for this patient do not resolve since her admission. Therefore, the underlying cause of anemia needs to rule out. This patient also potentially had liver problems since the liver profile was abnormal, especially the high ALT, ALP, and total bilirubin since her admission. This might be due to DKA and pneumonia triggering abnormal liver enzyme. Other reasons and causes for these abnormal values need to be identified. Next, the patient is not compliant with her anti-diabetic medications and there is no medication for some of her chronic diseases such as hypertension and dyslipidemia. The reasons for the non-adherence need to be identified through medication history taking. The patient need to educate regarding the importance of taking medications and the risks of complication for non-compliant.
Moving on to the monitoring plan, in order to make sure the responsible medications are effective, we need to monitor the signs and symptoms of the infection. Next is to monitor the IO chart of the patient and making sure that patient is always hydrated. Thirdly is to monitor the random blood sugar level and HbA1c level and ensure that everything is within the normal range, so that we will know that the OAHA drugs and insulin are effective towards patient's diabetic condition. And last one is to monitor serum electrolytes and ABGs to monitor the effectiveness of treatment for metabolic acidosis. For the safety monitoring plan, we need to monitor the signs and symptoms of allergic reaction or anaphylaxis to ensure absence of allergic reaction and safety of the treatment. Next is to monitor signs and symptoms of hypoglycemia in order to prevent any adverse effect from the OHA and insulin medication. Thirdly is liver function tests to prevent hepatotoxicity of medication such as azithromycin and ceftriaxone. And the last one is to monitor renal function of the patient in order to prevent nephrotoxicity of medication for tazocine and cefepime.
That's all from us. Thank you.